Hello, I'm Michael Latender, and this is the final for the IDS 403. The technology I chose to look deeper into was mobile technology, such as cell phones. The technology's original intent was solely for communication, and originally solely for verbal communication over a wireless network. It was invented by Martin Cooper. The first cell phone call was placed on April 3rd, 1973, according to an article from The Atlantic. In recent years, apps have been developed to include mobile banking, gathering information, translation, uh, and finding other useful applications. For example, SMS or text messaging was invented. The first SMS message was sent December 3rd, 1992, according to Gizmodo, and that opened up a whole new line for people doing two-factor authentication and other items like that, and quick, easy messages across um, time zones and able to be picked up later on. So if someone's in a meeting or items like that, it can easily be recovered from and not just left a voicemail. And another recent wave of fitness applications have expanded to include fitness and health tracking. Two of the most famous ones are probably the Samsung Galaxy S5 and S6 that do the heart rate monitoring. Also, the same thing is true with the iPhone now. Forces that are leading the development include opening the app stores such as Android Play, Windows App Store, and the Apple App Store. This allows users to kind of create their own apps and allow others to kind of create a demand for developers to create new things. Also, the being untethered, really increases people's ability and demand, and therefore has a lot more people working to develop these things and really push the boundaries. And as these apps get added, the hardware gets better, and more things such as the fitness and the heart rate monitor is being added onto the cell phones to increase the usability and functionality. New business ventures such as mobile payments are now opening doors in developing countries. They're developing card readers and secure payment systems. Africa is a hotbed for technology such as this to allow people to send and receive payments and actually kind of translate from one currency to another very easily, which really opens up international trade with them, and they don't need to have a huge, infrastructure to do that. They're able to do that right from their phone. Fitness and health needs are leading development of sensors that can interact easily with the human body. We're seeing some sleep aids and tracking stuff like that. Also, doctors are starting to look at this to be able to monitor patients even when they're not in the doctor's office or hospitals. It's not to say that it's not without some problems that need to get addressed too. The mobile nature of cellular helps to overcome physical barriers, such as in Africa, where their physical infrastructure of networks and for data lines were never in place, and the terrain is very unnerving and very hard to navigate. So a lot of this mobile technology allows you to overcome a lot of that stuff. So that's some of the problems that it's helping address. It also addresses the issue of where information is not readily available to remote users. Now they can quickly get updates, they can search for the answers that they need, so you might not be able to get to a library or the newspaper or stuff like that, but you can quickly use your mobile phone to search different articles and to get the information that you need. The intended customers vary greatly. Originally, it was kind of geared towards business people who always had a need to stay connected. They needed to get in touch with clients, get in touch with the office. But recently, it's been expanding to include families and students. I think that young people have really taken this information and this technology and ran with it. A lot of them are developing their own applications, their own uses and niches for the mobile technology. With lower cost for data and the hardware improvements, the cost barrier is becoming lower and lower as well. When cell phones first came out, they were much, much bigger. They actually came in a bag, and the cost per minute was astronomical. Now you can get flat fee. You can use as much data as you want for, pretty much what some people spend in Starbucks every month. So that's definitely helping bring down the cost and open the doors for lower income families as well. And with companies investing in towers and satellite systems, coverage is getting better and better all the time, while still reducing the cost to the end user. The major benefactors are those who live in more rural areas where traditional access to data is lacking or even non-existent. One article that I read was showing that in Kenya, there are actually more cell phones now than there are people. So that is, or excuse me, more cell phones than there are light bulbs. So these people are able to, access data that they didn't have before. They would have to travel long distances to go to a place that had either a data line or a phone line or even a library, which could be many, many, many miles away in many days' travel. There are benefits for those who can now check pricing or even take payments on their own, which allow them to check the prices of nearby competitors and no longer be taken advantage of from others trying to cut their prices. One study that I was reading on the Atlantic was showing that Africans in this area were able to check the prices of markets all around them. That way, if the supplier that they are selling to or buying from is saying, oh, well, I can get this cheaper at the market, 2 towns over, it's very easy for those merchants to check, say, okay, you can, I'll reduce my price to match that, or you're lying to me, you're trying to take advantage of me, I will not sell it to you for cheaper than the price I set. The stages of technology that in terms of adoption, in the U.S. and other developed nations, adoption is very late stage. Almost everyone has a cell phone. Even kids in schools, middle schools, many of them have cell phones now in most areas. Some of the rural areas, it is becoming more and more mainstream. Not 100% adoption by any stretch of the imagination. However, it's well on its way to, being the vast majority. In developing areas, the adoption rate is growing at a staggering rate. Like I said, that in Kenya there are more cell phones right now than there are people, and more cell phones than there are light bulbs. So that is a huge indication of how wonderful this technology is and how much it is really taking off. So there's definitely a relationship between social change and the technology. So the social aspect is really driving the technology to be more social, with Instagrams and integrations into social groups such as Facebook, LinkedIn, and countless other ones. It's an easy way to interact with each other and also allow people to interact with the technology and have the technology interact with you. So that's definitely a great way that it's kind of helping shape each other. Cultural practice is another thing. The use of text messaging is being shown to decrease some face-to-face and social interactions. A lot of people now say that they don't really talk to each other as much because they are using the text messaging and other messaging apps on their phone. With access to nearly instant communication, the social expectation is for a much faster answer and quicker decisions. We no longer work within a 9-to-5 environment that we traditionally are used to. We're reachable 24/7, so businesses are now expected to be a lot more responsive. Workers as well are expected to do a lot more, especially after hours and outside of the normal workday, because they do have access to the information and the communication. For this analysis, I kind of want to look through the lens of how technology has helped in ways that we never thought of, in particular, kind of helping the lower classes gain information and access to a lot of things that help bridge the digital divide. Again, with breaking down the barriers, the physical barriers especially, being able to bring it to rural locations where they were not given the infrastructure. They did not have access to a lot of the data in the physical locations. They can now use a wireless technology to transmit a lot of that and get it nearly instantaneous. It's helping break down the barriers of some data that they didn't get before. And now they're able to, accept payments, order materials, do research on alternative suppliers, and also medicines. They're able to research some crops which might do well in their area. They're able to research diseases and other things as well. So again, I think that those are really great positive benefits of this technology. There are some negative effects as well, such as being able to quickly radicalize and have kind of nefarious means for it to trigger explosive devices to incite riots, etc. So there's definitely some things that we're able to kind of see the negative sides of it, but I think that that is at least currently, is the minority of the cases here. Uh, so there are also some privacy concerns. Uh, you're able to be tracked no matter where you are. The reliance on a single provider could easily create a monopoly. If one provider is in the area, then they could really charge as much or as little as they wanted to, and really limit the local choices as well. There are some social ramifications, such as I mentioned earlier. A lot of people are not developing the face-to-face interactions that they used to. They're also not developing some social skills that they probably should be at this point. Uh, Again, kind of the safety of the data that's being collected is easily hacked because it is going through a wireless transmission. And again, the nefarious means. So I think that kind of wraps up a lot of this. I think that this has great potential, and hopefully it's going to be used for good reasons instead of bad ones. And I thank you so much for your time.